Karen Vold, the 2016 recipient of the Donita Barnes Lifetime Achievement Award and wife of Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame stock contractor Harry Vold, passed away on Monday, January 12, 2026, at her family's ranch in Fowler, Colorado. She was 86 years old. Karen's passion for rodeo began at just 14 when she entered her first rodeo as a trick rider, a moment that would launch her lifelong career in pro rodeo. By the age of 18, she was performing at larger events and training under world champion Dick Griffith. During one of these performances, she met her future husband, Harry Vold. Together, they ran the Harry Vold Rodeo Company, a staple in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, PRCA, which was later taken over by their daughter, Kirsten Vold. "She loved rodeo and she loved trick riding," said Kirsten Vold. "She taught so many students, and her legacy will continue through all of them." Behind the scenes, Karen was known as the backbone of the stock contracting firm. She organized flag presentations, timed events, and maintained the company's professional standards, from keeping pickup men's chaps clean to coordinating judges' attire. Kirsten added, "She always wanted to be in the back and never wanted to be in the front. But she was the one that kept that rodeo company going." Karen's love for rodeo was inspired by her father, Andy Womack, a Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame clown. She also dedicated decades to teaching trick riding, co-running the Red Top Ranch Trick Riding School in Avondale, Colorado, with former student Linda Schultz for over 30 years. Jan Mårtenson, the acclaimed Swedish author best known for his detective stories featuring antique dealer Johan Christian Homan, has died at the age of 92, his publisher confirmed. While Mortonson gained fame as a writer, he often described writing as a hobby. By profession, he was a diplomat, serving as Swedish ambassador and holding high-ranking positions within the European Union. He also organized the first major international environmental conference in Stockholm in 1972 and served as the King's Chief of Staff during the 1970s. Mortonson began his literary career later in life, publishing his first Homan novel, The Murder of the Holy Ghost, at nearly 40 years old in 1973. Over the next 5 decades, he wrote a total of 52 detective stories, in which fine food, exquisite wines, and cultural sophistication were as central to the narrative as the mystery itself. His final book in the series was released in 2024. Reflecting on his writing in a 2022 interview, Mortonson said, "It has been a kind of therapy for me, not least during my almost 15 years at the UN, where I held demanding positions. I went out into the lilac arbor, sat down with a typewriter, a glass of dry martini, and a smoked Cuban cigar. It was a kind of escape from reality." Maria Sotha, Mortonson's publisher at Wallstrom and Wistrand, described him as far ahead of his time and a forerunner of today's feel-good literature. He wrote detective stories that made you feel good rather than scared, while also learning about antiques and history, and where, as John used to say, more Bordeaux than blood flowed over the pages, she said. He had a cultural education rarely seen, and he will be deeply missed by all his readers. Mortonson's unique blend of mystery, culture, and culinary delight leaves a lasting legacy in the literary world. Rick Garcia, a longtime activist and co-founder of Equality Illinois, passed away Monday at the age of 69 due to heart failure, friends confirmed. Garcia's tireless efforts were instrumental in the passage of key legislation in 1988 that made it illegal to discriminate against the LGBTQ+ community in Chicago, with similar protections later implemented at the county and state level. Art Johnston, a fellow activist, said, "There's just no question in my mind that without Rick doing what he did at the time, we would not have passed legislation that included basic anti-discriminatory gay rights in the city, county, and state." Before the 1988 ordinance passed, Chicago City Council faced opposition from members citing religious beliefs. Garcia, a devout Catholic, worked strategically within his faith community, reaching out to Catholic nuns who had taught some aldermen to counter opposition. Sister Donna Quinn and other Catholic activists played a key role in supporting the legislation. Garcia, along with Johnston, Lori Dittman, and Jan Henry Damsky, formed the Gang of Four, a coalition of activists who successfully pushed the stalled ordinance over the finish line during the administration of Mayor Eugene Sawyer. In 1992, Garcia was a principal founder of the Illinois Federation for Human Rights, which later became Equality Illinois in 2000. The organization remains one of the leading forces advocating for LGBTQ+ rights in the state. Garcia is remembered as a visionary advocate whose work helped shape protections for the LGBTQ+ community and continues to influence civil rights efforts in Illinois today. Doug McConnell, the beloved television journalist and longtime host of Bay Area Backroads, has died at the age of 80. McConnell passed away on Tuesday, January 13, 2026, his family and team confirmed. For decades, McConnell brought Northern California to life on screen, guiding viewers along hidden back roads, scenic byways, and lesser-known destinations. His work highlighted the beauty, history, and culture of the Bay Area, inspiring countless viewers to explore and appreciate the region in new ways. From remote trails and beaches to historic towns and local events, McConnell made each journey feel personal and memorable. The announcement of his passing came on Wednesday, January 14, via the Open Road with Doug McConnell Facebook page, which stated that he peacefully passed. The post shared, "Since his stroke in the fall of 2023, he had bravely struggled to regain his health, but a string of setbacks finally caught up with him." McConnell began his career in broadcast journalism decades ago and became a familiar and trusted face for Bay Area residents. His gentle storytelling, humor, and passion for uncovering hidden stories set him apart as a journalist and host. Many fans remember his ability to connect with the people and communities he visited, making every episode of Bay Area Backroads feel like a personal invitation to discover something new. Beyond his television work, McConnell was also an advocate for local tourism and environmental awareness, often emphasizing the importance of preserving the natural beauty and cultural heritage of Northern California. His legacy includes not only a wealth of episodes capturing the essence of the Bay Area, but also a lasting impact on how viewers experience and explore their surroundings. Yeison Jiménez tragically lost his life in a plane crash on January 10, 2026, while traveling to a concert. He was 34 years old. Authorities reported that Gimenez was aboard a private aircraft that went down shortly after takeoff in the Boyacá region, between the towns of Paipa and Duitama. The crash also claimed the lives of 5 others, including members of his team and the pilot. Gimenez's team released a statement expressing their deep sorrow over the loss of the singer, describing him as a source of hope for thousands whose life story resonated with fans. The statement, originally in Spanish, read, "Today we say goodbye not only to an artist, we say goodbye to a son, a brother, a friend, a human being full of dreams and courage, who transformed his story into hope for thousands of people." A public tribute has been scheduled for Wednesday, though the family has requested that farewells remain private to honor their grief. Gimenez's Instagram page also posted a message asking for respect for the family's private moments during this difficult time. Yeison Jiménez was a leading figure in Colombia's música popular genre, a style that blends ranchera with the traditional Colombian string music known as carrilera. In 2024, he achieved major success by selling out the Movistar Arena in Bogotá 3 times, performing for more than 40,000 fans across the shows. He is survived by his wife and 3 children. Fans and fellow artists have expressed their condolences, mourning the loss of one of Colombia's most influential contemporary singers. Clint Eastwood Jr., born on May 31, 1930, in San Francisco, California, emerged from modest beginnings to become one of the most enduring and influential figures in American cinema. Raised during the Great Depression, Eastwood experienced a childhood marked by frequent relocations as his father sought stable employment, a reality that shaped his independence and resilience. Despite later myths suggesting deep poverty, Eastwood's family eventually settled into relative comfort in Piedmont, California, where his father worked as a manufacturing executive, and his mother later held a clerical position at IBM. From an early age, Eastwood stood out physically, even earning the nickname Samson at birth. Yet academically he struggled, repeating grades and facing disciplinary issues that ultimately led to his transfer from Piedmont High School to Oakland Technical High School, where he graduated in 1949. Before acting ever entered the picture, Eastwood worked a wide range of blue-collar jobs, including lifeguard, grocery clerk, forest firefighter, and golf caddy, experiences that grounded him in working-class discipline and self-reliance. In 1951, his life took a dramatic turn when he was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Korean War. Stationed at Fort Ord in California, Eastwood narrowly survived a life-threatening incident when a military aircraft he was aboard crashed into the Pacific Ocean. He and the pilot swam miles to safety, a harrowing event that Eastwood later reflected on as a moment that shaped his calm demeanor and stoic outlook on life. Discharged honorably in 1953, he returned to civilian life without clear direction, but with a hardened sense of perseverance. Following his military service, Eastwood drifted through various pursuits before enrolling in acting classes in Los Angeles. Tall, quiet, and unconventional by Hollywood standards of the time, he initially struggled to gain traction in the industry. Studio executives doubted his acting ability and criticized his speech and mannerisms, yet his determination remained unshaken. These early years were defined by rejection and persistence, laying the foundation for a career that would later redefine masculinity, authority, and moral ambiguity on screen. After completing his military service and returning to Los Angeles, Clint Eastwood began the slow and uncertain climb through Hollywood's unforgiving studio system. He signed a contract with Universal Pictures in the mid-1950s, where he appeared in small, often uncredited roles and worked steadily but without distinction. Studio executives famously doubted his potential, criticizing his understated delivery and claiming he lacked charisma. Eastwood was eventually dropped from his Universal contract, a setback that could have ended many careers before they truly began. Instead, it forced him into the emerging world of television, where consistency mattered more than immediate stardom. Eastwood's breakthrough arrived in 1959 when he was cast as Rowdy Yates in the Western television series Rawhide. The role proved transformative. Over 8 seasons, Eastwood appeared in more than 200 episodes, developing not only his screen presence, but also his signature restrained style: quiet, observant, and emotionally controlled. Rawhide became one of television's most popular westerns, and Eastwood grew into a household name across America. Yet despite the show's success, he felt creatively restricted. Television westerns followed rigid formulas, and Eastwood longed for more complex characters and deeper storytelling. That opportunity arrived unexpectedly from Italy. In the early 1960s, Italian director Sergio Leone was seeking an American actor for a low-budget western inspired by Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa. Eastwood, sensing a rare chance to redefine himself, accepted the offer, even though the film was shot overseas and dismissed by Hollywood insiders as risky and insignificant. The result was A Fistful of Dollars, 1964, a film that completely overturned traditional Western tropes. Eastwood's character, later dubbed the Man with No Name, spoke very little, relied on moral ambiguity rather than heroism, and wielded violence with cold efficiency. The film was an international sensation. Audiences were captivated by Eastwood's minimalist performance, Leone's operatic direction, and Ennio Morricone's haunting musical scores. 2 sequels followed, For a Few Dollars More, 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966, collectively known as the Dollars Trilogy. These films transformed Eastwood into a global star and permanently altered the Western genre. His poncho-clad anti-hero became a cultural archetype, redefining masculinity on screen as controlled, silent, and lethal, rather than loud and righteous. When Eastwood returned to Hollywood, he did so with newfound power. No longer viewed as a television actor, he began selecting roles strategically, blending commercial appeal with artistic control. Films like Hang 'em High, 1968, Where Eagles Dare, 1968, and The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976, reinforced his reputation as a commanding screen presence while gradually introducing themes of vengeance, justice, and moral consequence. Eastwood was no longer simply acting. He was shaping his own myth. This era culminated in one of cinema's most enduring characters, Inspector Harry Callahan. Debuting in Dirty Harry, 1971, Eastwood portrayed a lawman whose brutal methods reflected public anxieties about crime, authority, and social order. The character sparked controversy but also massive success, spawning multiple sequels and cementing Eastwood as a symbol of uncompromising strength. By the late 1970s, Clint Eastwood had completed one of the most remarkable transformations in Hollywood history, from dismissed contract player to international icon, all while maintaining an image built on restraint, discipline, and unwavering self-belief. By the early 1970s, Clint Eastwood was no longer just a movie star. He was becoming a force of authority in Hollywood. The release of Dirty Harry in 1971 marked a defining moment in his career and in American cinema. Playing Inspector Harry Callahan, a San Francisco police detective who operated outside bureaucratic restraints, Eastwood embodied a character that polarized critics and electrified audiences. The film arrived during a period of rising crime rates and public distrust in institutions, and its unapologetically tough stance struck a nerve. While critics accused the film of glorifying vigilantism, audiences embraced Callahan as a symbol of decisive justice in an era of uncertainty. The success of Dirty Harry spawned a franchise that stretched across 2 decades, including Magnum Force, 1973, The Enforcer, 1976, Sudden Impact, 1983, and The Deadpool, 1988. Over time, Eastwood subtly reshaped the character, addressing earlier criticisms by emphasizing moral consequence and institutional responsibility. What remained constant was Eastwood's ability to command the screen through silence, minimal dialogue, and controlled intensity, a performance style that became his trademark. At the same time, Eastwood was laying the groundwork for an even more significant transformation, becoming a director. Dissatisfied with studio interference, he founded Malpaso Productions, giving himself unprecedented creative autonomy. His directorial debut, Play Misty for Me, 1971, surprised Hollywood. The psychological thriller revealed Eastwood's instinct for pacing, atmosphere, and character-driven tension. Rather than flashy visuals, his directing style favored efficiency, emotional restraint, and respect for the audience's intelligence. Throughout the 1970s, Eastwood directed and starred in a steady stream of films that balanced commercial appeal with personal vision. Westerns, such as High Plains Drifter, 1973, and The Outlaw Josey Wales, 1976, deconstructed traditional frontier mythology, portraying violence as tragic rather than heroic. These films reflected Eastwood's growing interest in moral ambiguity, trauma, and the long-term cost of revenge. Unlike earlier Western heroes, his characters were haunted by their pasts, shaped by loss, and driven by survival rather than glory. Simultaneously, Eastwood expanded his range with lighter, commercially successful films like Every Which Way But Loose, 1978, and Any Which Way You Can, 1980, proving he could generate massive box office returns outside the action genre. These successes gave him further leverage, allowing him to take creative risks without studio resistance. By the end of the decade, Eastwood had achieved something rare: complete control over his projects, from casting to final cut. Behind the scenes, Eastwood earned a reputation for discipline and efficiency. He shot quickly, avoided excessive takes, and respected cast and crew time, an approach rooted in his television years. This work ethic not only saved money, but fostered loyalty among collaborators, many of whom worked with him repeatedly for decades. Eastwood's sets were known for their calm atmosphere, reflecting his belief that creativity flourishes without chaos. By the early 1980s, Clint Eastwood had firmly transitioned from action star to filmmaker-statesman. He was no longer chasing relevance, he was shaping it. The seeds planted during this era would later blossom into some of the most critically acclaimed films of his career, proving that longevity in Hollywood comes not from reinvention alone, but from control, conviction, and quiet confidence. By the early 1990s, Clint Eastwood stood at a crossroads that few actors of his generation ever reached. Having spent decades portraying hardened men of violence, gunslingers, cops, soldiers, and loners, he now faced the challenge of reckoning with the very mythology that had built his fame. That reckoning came in 1992 with Unforgiven, a Western that would redefine not only Eastwood's career, but the genre itself. Directed by Eastwood, and starring him as William Money, a retired outlaw pulled back into killing out of desperation, the film stripped away romanticism and exposed the brutal moral cost of violence. Unforgiven was a meditation on aging, guilt, and consequence. Eastwood's Money was not a hero seeking justice, but a broken man haunted by his past. The film confronted the lies of Western legends that killing makes men strong, that violence cleanses the soul, and replaced them with grief, fear, and irreversible damage. Critics hailed it as a masterpiece, and the Academy Awards confirmed what many already believed. Eastwood won Best Director and Best Picture, while the film earned 4 Oscars in total. At age 62, he achieved a level of critical respect that had eluded him for decades, transforming public perception from genre star to serious artist. Rather than slowing down, Eastwood entered one of the most productive phases of his life. Throughout the 1990s, he delivered a string of mature, emotionally complex films that reflected his evolving worldview. In the Line of Fire, 1993, presented him as an aging Secret Service agent confronting irrelevance and regret, while The Bridges of Madison County, 1995, shocked audiences by revealing a deeply vulnerable romantic side. His quiet, restrained performance opposite Meryl Streep demonstrated that Eastwood could convey profound emotional intimacy without abandoning his trademark stoicism. As a director, Eastwood gravitated towards stories about flawed institutions and wounded individuals. Films like Absolute Power, 1997, and True Crime, 1999, explored corruption, media ethics, and moral compromise. His minimalist filmmaking style, long takes, natural lighting, understated music, became a signature, emphasizing performance over spectacle. He trusted silence as much as dialogue, allowing emotion to emerge organically rather than through manipulation. The culmination of this period arrived in 2004 with Million Dollar Baby. The film told the tragic story of a female boxer and her aging trainer, confronting themes of mentorship, mortality, and mercy. Once again, Eastwood's restraint amplified the film's emotional power. The Academy rewarded him with his second Best Director and Best Picture Oscars, making him the oldest winner of Best Director in history at that time. The victory solidified his transformation from action icon to cinematic moral philosopher. Eastwood's late career acclaim was not driven by reinvention for novelty's sake, but by honesty. He allowed his characters to age, fail, and confront death, a rarity in Hollywood, where aging stars often cling to youth. By embracing time rather than resisting it, Eastwood became a symbol of artistic endurance. His films asked difficult questions without offering easy answers, inviting audiences to reflect rather than escape. By the end of this era, Clint Eastwood was no longer defined by any single role. He was a filmmaker whose body of work spanned genres, generations, and philosophies. The boy from Oakland who once struggled in school had become one of the most respected storytellers in cinema history, not because he shouted the loudest, but because he listened, observed, and evolved. As Clint Eastwood moved deeper into the later stages of his career, he did something few Hollywood legends dared to do. He allowed his age to become central to his storytelling. Rather than hiding behind nostalgia or repeating old triumphs, Eastwood embraced aging as both subject and strength. His characters became men confronting irrelevance, regret, and the long shadow of their past choices. This shift marked a profound evolution, turning his films into reflections on morality, responsibility, and redemption in a rapidly changing world. One of the most defining statements of this period came with Gran Torino in 2008. Eastwood starred as Walt Kowalski, a bitter, racially resentful Korean War veteran whose isolation is slowly broken by an unlikely relationship with his immigrant neighbors. The film tackled issues of racism, generational conflict, and the possibility of change late in life. Kowalski was deeply flawed, openly offensive, and emotionally guarded, yet the film refused to excuse him. Instead, Eastwood allowed the character to evolve, confronting the consequences of hatred and violence. The film's climax, rooted in sacrifice rather than aggression, stood as a deliberate rejection of the gun-wielding personas that once defined Eastwood's career. Gran Torino became a massive commercial success and a cultural touchstone, especially among audiences who saw in Kowalski a mirror of generational tension and moral reckoning. It demonstrated Eastwood's rare ability to engage contemporary social issues without preachiness, allowing character and consequence to drive the message. Many critics viewed the film as a symbolic farewell to his on-screen tough guy image. even though Eastwood would continue acting in the years that followed. As a director, Eastwood increasingly turned his focus toward real-life stories rooted in moral ambiguity. Films like Changeling, 2008, examined institutional failure and maternal resilience, while Invictus, 2009, explored leadership and reconciliation through Nelson Mandela's use of sport to heal a divided South Africa. Rather than glorifying power, Eastwood depicted leadership as an act of restraint, empathy, and vision. His interest lay not in heroes without flaws, but in individuals navigating impossible choices. The 2010s further cemented his role as a chronicler of American identity. American Sniper, 2014, became one of the highest-grossing films of his career, igniting intense debate about war, patriotism, and trauma. Eastwood avoided clear moral declarations, presenting the story of a soldier shaped and ultimately damaged by violence. This refusal to simplify complex realities became one of his defining artistic traits. He trusted audiences to wrestle with discomfort rather than offering comforting conclusions. Even as he entered his late 80s and 90s, Eastwood showed no sign of creative exhaustion. Films like The Mule, 2018, and Cry Macho, 2021, portrayed aging men confronting loneliness, regret, and lost time. These were quiet films, stripped of spectacle, focused on human connection and self-awareness. Eastwood's performances were minimal, almost fragile, emphasizing presence over power. He was no longer the man who dominated scenes through force. He now commanded attention through stillness. Clint Eastwood's late career work stands as a rare example of artistic aging done with integrity. He did not chase relevance. Relevance followed him because his stories remained honest. By allowing his characters to fail, suffer, and seek redemption, Eastwood reframed masculinity as accountability rather than dominance. His films became conversations with time itself, asking what remains when strength fades and reputation gives way to reflection. Beyond his cinematic career, Clint Eastwood has long been an enigmatic figure in American public life, balancing his identity as a creative force with his involvement in politics, civic duties, and occasional controversy. In 1986, Eastwood made headlines when he was elected mayor of Carmel by the Sea, California, a small coastal town known for its arts community and strict local ordinances. Though his tenure lasted only 2 years, Eastwood's approach to governance was unorthodox yet pragmatic. He often bypassed bureaucracy to achieve results, personally addressing local issues ranging from municipal budget concerns to public safety initiatives. His reputation as a hands-on, no-nonsense leader endeared him to some residents, while critics questioned his casual, sometimes cavalier style of management. Nevertheless, his political service illustrated a willingness to step outside the limelight of Hollywood and engage directly with the civic responsibilities of his community. Throughout his public life, Eastwood has been known for expressing opinions that sometimes sparked debate. His political positions defy simple categorization. He identifies as a libertarian-leaning conservative, advocating for fiscal responsibility and individual freedom, yet has also supported causes and candidates typically aligned with progressive ideals, particularly in the arts and environmental advocacy. For instance, he has donated to Democratic campaigns while maintaining conservative views on certain social issues, reflecting a complex personal ideology rather than adherence to a single party line. This nuanced stance has often left him admired for independence, but occasionally criticized for unpredictability, reinforcing his image as a maverick, both on and off the screen. Eastwood's personal life, much like his public persona, has been subject to scrutiny, in part due to his long career and numerous relationships. Over the decades, he has fathered multiple children with different partners, maintained high-profile relationships, and endured personal tragedies that have shaped both his character and his work. While he has been fiercely private about family matters, these experiences have frequently influenced his creative output, particularly films that explore themes of loss, reconciliation, and the consequences of personal choices. The emotional weight of these experiences is often visible in the introspective, morally complex characters he directs or portrays. Philanthropy has also played a significant role in Eastwood's life. He has long supported arts education, veteran organizations, and humanitarian initiatives, both through personal contributions and the charitable arm of his production company, Malpaso Productions. Eastwood's commitment to philanthropy reflects a desire to use his wealth and influence to foster cultural and social development, whether by preserving historic theaters, funding local arts programs, or assisting communities in need. In addition, he has been actively involved in promoting environmental awareness, supporting conservation projects along the California coastline, and advocating for responsible land use, often in the regions where he resides. Public controversies have occasionally punctuated Eastwood's career, ranging from debates over political statements to incidents at film festivals and award ceremonies. Despite these controversies, he has consistently maintained a reputation for personal integrity and independence, rarely allowing external pressures to dictate his artistic or civic decisions. This balance of creativity, political engagement, and personal discretion has contributed to his enduring influence as a cultural figure, admired not just for his films but also for the authenticity and longevity of his public life. As Clint Eastwood approached the 9th decade of his life, his dual identity as filmmaker and citizen became increasingly intertwined. He embodies the idea that creative figures can engage meaningfully in public discourse while maintaining artistic freedom. His legacy in politics and public life underscores a commitment to principles, whether civic responsibility, artistic integrity, or personal accountability, that complement his cinematic achievements. In every aspect, Eastwood demonstrates that his influence extends far beyond the screen, shaping both the cultural landscape and the communities he touches. In the later stages of his career, Clint Eastwood continued to redefine both his personal artistic boundaries and the expectations of audiences worldwide. While many actors slow down after decades of work, Eastwood instead embraced increasingly complex and sometimes controversial subjects, tackling moral ambiguity, historical reflection, and the human condition with unflinching honesty. Films such as Gran Torino, 2008, showcased his ability to explore themes of redemption, cultural tension, and intergenerational conflict, combining his signature stoicism with emotional depth. The film resonated widely, praised for its raw honesty and social commentary, and solidified Eastwood as a director unafraid to confront the uncomfortable truths of contemporary society. Similarly, Invictus, 2009, demonstrated his capacity to blend historical narrative with inspirational storytelling, recounting Nelson Mandela's efforts to unite South Africa through the 1995 Rugby World Cup. Eastwood's mastery of pacing, character development, and subtlety made these films both commercially successful and critically acclaimed, reinforcing his reputation as one of Hollywood's few auteurs who consistently combines artistic vision with mass appeal. Eastwood's later works, including American Sniper, 2014, and Sully, 2016, further illustrated his fascination with real-life heroes and the moral dilemmas they face. American Sniper examined the psychological toll of war on an individual while sparking national debate about patriotism, military engagement, and media portrayal of conflict. Meanwhile, Sully recounted the miraculous emergency landing performed by pilot Chesley Sully Sullenberger, emphasizing leadership, responsibility, and public scrutiny. In both cases, Eastwood maintained a restrained directorial style that allowed real-world tension and character nuance to emerge organically, reflecting his belief that storytelling should illuminate human complexity rather than manipulate it with overt sentimentality. In addition to narrative films, Eastwood has remained active in directing documentaries and biographical projects, most notably Letters from Iwo Jima, 2006, and Changeling, 2008, both of which earned him Academy Award nominations. His work has frequently explored historical and socio-political contexts, revealing his interest in the ethical and emotional dimensions of human behavior across eras. Remarkably, Eastwood often combines his roles as actor, director, and producer, maintaining creative control over both the narrative and aesthetic elements of his projects. His production company, Malpaso Productions, has produced a significant portion of his films, allowing him to champion projects that might otherwise have struggled in the commercial marketplace. This entrepreneurial independence has not only ensured consistent quality, but also positioned Eastwood as a mentor and supporter of younger filmmakers and talent. Eastwood's influence is global, transcending national and generational boundaries. International audiences admire his stoic screen presence, moral gravitas, and nuanced exploration of ethical dilemmas. From spaghetti westerns in the 1960s to contemporary dramas, Eastwood's films have introduced foreign viewers to American culture, while simultaneously challenging stereotypes about heroism, masculinity, and morality. Critics and scholars alike have noted his recurring themes of individual resilience, redemption, and societal reflection, framing him as a filmmaker whose work engages not only emotionally, but intellectually. In academic settings, his films are studied for their contributions to cinematic language, narrative structure, and philosophical inquiry, emphasizing his dual legacy as both entertainer and cultural thinker. Despite decades of global fame, Eastwood has maintained a level of personal privacy rare among Hollywood legends. He rarely seeks publicity for his private life, instead letting his films, awards, and public achievements speak for themselves. This discretion, combined with his enduring creativity, has made him a model of sustained relevance in an industry often dominated by transient trends. His accolades, including 4 Academy Awards, multiple Golden Globes, and honors from European film institutions, reflect not only technical excellence, but also a profound impact on cultural storytelling and human understanding. Today, Eastwood's legacy encompasses far more than acting or directing. He represents a fusion of artistic vision, civic engagement, and personal authenticity that continues to inspire filmmakers, actors, and audiences alike. From early westerns to modern dramas, his work reflects a deep understanding of human nature, a commitment to moral exploration, and an unwavering belief in the power of storytelling to shape society. As both a cultural icon and a living legend, Clint Eastwood remains a testament to the transformative potential of cinema, the resilience of creativity, and the enduring value of integrity in public and private life. In the most recent phase of his career, Clint Eastwood has solidified his status as one of the most influential and versatile figures in cinematic history. Even into his 90s, Eastwood continues to work with remarkable consistency and vision, demonstrating a rare combination of stamina, creativity, and professional discipline. His later films, such as The Mule, 2018, and Cry Mako, 2021, reflect both his personal evolution and his enduring fascination with themes of aging, redemption, and the complexities of human morality. In these works, Eastwood frequently explores protagonists facing ethical dilemmas, personal regrets, and the challenges of reconciliation, often drawing subtle parallels between his characters' journeys and his own life experiences. Audiences and critics alike recognize his ability to balance introspection with compelling storytelling, keeping viewers engaged while provoking thoughtful reflection. Eastwood's career has been recognized with an extraordinary array of awards and honors that span both acting and directing. He has received 4 Academy Awards, 2 for Best Director and 2 for Best Picture, highlighting his unique dual capacity to excel both in front of and behind the camera. Eastwood has also been awarded multiple Golden Globes, César Awards, and an AFI Life Achievement Award, cementing his reputation as a filmmaker whose work is celebrated across continents. Notably, in 2000, he received the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement at the Venice Film Festival, one of Europe's most prestigious cinematic honors, and he was twice honored by France with the Commander of the Order des Arts et des Lettres, 1994, and the Legion of Honor, 2007. These accolades reflect not only technical mastery, but also the profound cultural influence of his films, which continue to inspire new generations of filmmakers, actors, and global audiences. Beyond awards, Eastwood has also left a remarkable mark on American culture and civic life. He served as the mayor of Carmel by the Sea, California, from 1986 to 1988, earning praise for his practical approach to municipal governance and his commitment to community well-being. This period of public service demonstrated another dimension of Eastwood's multifaceted life, showing that his influence extends beyond cinema into tangible contributions to civic leadership. Even in retirement from public office, Eastwood has maintained a thoughtful voice on issues of social and political significance. often emphasizing personal responsibility, ethical decision-making, and the importance of individual integrity, values reflected in both his life and films. Eastwood's impact on global audiences extends beyond recognition and awards. His films are studied in universities, cited in academic discourse, and analyzed for their philosophical, psychological, and sociological depth. Themes such as justice, individualism, heroism, and the moral consequences of violence recur throughout his oeuvre, offering rich material for analysis and discussion. Additionally, his filmmaking style, characterized by understated direction, efficient storytelling, minimal retakes, and an emphasis on naturalistic performance, has influenced generations of directors, from those working in Hollywood blockbusters to independent cinema worldwide. Eastwood's approach demonstrates that commercial success and artistic integrity need not be mutually exclusive, providing a model for sustainable and meaningful thought.